Government of India, Ms. Ruchika Chaudhary. Warm welcome. We have with us Shri Amit Kalyani. Warm welcome. We have with us Shri Amit Kalyani Materials Private Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I am Pooja Yadav Kaif, and I am absolutely delighted to be here to host this wonderful event. I welcome all of you to the Kalyani FeRresta launch event. I request Shri Amit Kalyani ji. I request Shri R.K. Goyal, Chairman, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Steel, Government of India. And of course, in India, ladies and gentlemen, every important event, every event that is close to our hearts begins with the lighting of the ceremonial lamp. So I'd like to request Honorable Minister, sir, in for a special day. With that, we will quickly begin. Thank you so much, sir. I'm sure a lot of you would know that nearly 2 billion tons of steel is produced, and India is the world's second largest producer of crude steel. However, the steel industry is considered to be one of the most polluting industries on our planet. It is the 5th largest CO2 emitter in the world. With, of course, these rising levels of CO2 emissions, the world is witnessing, like never before, an unprecedented climate change. And what is needed right now, or what is the need of the hour, is a collective effort to reduce these carbon emissions, and we mean this at both the national level and the global level. Well, India, for one, is truly committed to this cause. And in fact, with the passing of the recent energy bill, it is on track to meet its net zero greenhouse gas emissions goal. We are very happy to be India's preferred steel supplier. And as India's preferred steel supplier, Sarloha Advanced Materials Private Limited, a Kalyani Group company, is also striding ahead in furthering this cause.
Respected Honorable Mantri Ji, Mr. Nagendra Sinha Ji, Ms. Ruchika Goyal, Ms. Lekhi Neha Ji, Mr. Paramjit Singh Ji, all other respected dignitaries from steel industry and other industries, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we have become the first company to produce green steel in the country. We have basically got the motivation from steel industry. It all started one fine morning. Mr. Devra, he called me that we are having a conference on 26th of May and whether we can make a presentation on roadmap to produce green steel. And from that day onwards, the type of encouragement we received from everybody sitting here from Steel Ministry, it is really great, and that it has become possible just because of continuous motivation from them. Additionally, we have realized that if we don't do it, it's not only steel, it will be the steel component largely for auto industry, which exports almost $20 billion worth of goods, will be at stake. So I'll just make a brief presentation. I'll skip many of the slides. Around 1 to 1.4 ton when it comes to electric arc furnace. Foods, we decarbonize basically our electric arc furnace plant, which is in Pune. We have another plant, Kalyani Steels Limited, which is the integrated steel plant in hospital. So in this plant, if we use all green energy, then almost 80% of carbon dioxide which we are generating goes down. And subsequent manufacturing processes where we are using currently fossil fuel, largely in the form of furnace oil or pressure PNG or LPG, that all can be changed to electrical furnaces, and we can really produce green steel. And that's where we hired a DNV. That's a global agency which is certifying production of green steel globally, and we got our current status of CO2 production audited by them, mapped by them. 5 ton, and we have achieved much lower than that. Now, even at the current status, when DNV mapped, our CO2 generation was only 740 kg as compared to some other plants. Now, typically it is defined globally by scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3. Everybody in the world is focusing on scope 1 and 2. Scope 1 is basically what is you are generating, what you are producing within your plant, and scope 2 is the energy which you are using. And major part of carbon dioxide.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to thank the Honorable Minister, Madam Secretary, and officials from the Steel Ministry for gracing this occasion and giving us encouragement and support to reach this point. It's really a privilege and an honor that the Minister has taken time out of his valuable and busy schedule to come and support us and encourage us further today. As you know, under the dynamic leadership of our Prime Minister, India has created a position for itself as a leader in thought and implementation around being sustainable as well. And taking a cue from this, at the Kalyani Group, we have also pledged to be green in everything we do. So we have launched an initiative, which is our own initiative called Planet Positive, which basically mandates and provides, let's say, a lens through which we look at what we do, how we do, and to make sure that everything we do is as good as it can be for the planet and more sustainable. So I'll just take you through a few of our initiatives. So as you know, ESG is today top of mind for everyone. We have gone through a very structured approach in our ESG, but it is not limiting itself to the SDG goals. We're also looking at where India and Indian companies can actually go beyond what are the goals that are set globally for sustainability. For example, given the abundance of sunlight and good conditions for wind energy as well, we have pledged to go fully green by 2030 in terms of energy consumption. As a group, today we're 25% green on energy consumption, that is renewable energy, and by 2030 it will be 100%. And this means that we will invest more than 1,000 megawatts more above where we are today in consuming this energy. We followed a very structured approach where we have a team, where we look at where are we today, where do we want to go, what are the gaps, and how can we benchmark these globally and implement them sustainably. I'm going to go a little fast. I don't want to take too much time because I think we're all keen to hear Honorable Minister. But we have goals for the sustainability roadmap that go through every step. What do we need to do internally? What do we need to do on the supply chain? How do we build sustainability, and how do we make sure that this is not done only in talk but in real letter and spirit? And every element of sustainability has been looked at, especially transportation, the Clean Air Act, and discharge of any kind of waste into either the environment or the ground. So every element has been looked at, and we will share these presentations so later on you all have ample time to peruse them. So we look at E, S and G holistically and also combine this and sustainability into our CSR initiative, so that whatever we do doesn't get limited to our factories and products, but also in society around us.
To invite, already on stage to the podium, Ms. Ruchika Chaudhary Govil, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Steel, Government of India, to kindly address this august audience. Welcome, ma'am.
And to the august house. I'll not take too much of your time because the Honorable Minister has other commitments. I'm just very happy to be here to take part and to take note of this step that Kalyani Group has taken towards carbon neutrality. The Prime Minister has set the goal for 2070 for carbon neutrality, but I'm so happy to note that our responsible companies have already embarked on this journey. I must also point out that today there is no one definition of green steel. So many companies, organizations, countries, coalitions are all working towards it. But what Kalyani Steel has today produced at 0.14 or 19 is actually such a small percentage of carbon emissions that there is no doubt that this particular steel will qualify as green steel. I would also like to point out that it is very important that this measure has been taken by this company, because going forward we see that the carbon border adjustment tax is proposed and shall sometime in future see the day, see light, because it is something that's being mooted by the European Union, by America, by the developed world in their attempt to reduce carbon emissions. So the company here today is so ready with its low carbon emission steel that the challenges of CBAM will be met by this company. I would also like to say that the targets that the Western world is also setting for itself are so limited. They talk about producing only 25, the G7 countries set for themselves a target of only producing 25 million tons by 2030 out of, I think, their production of about 500 million tons. So if we are already geared to meet this challenge of producing steel here, I think we would be doing better than the developed world. India is one of the fastest growing economies for steel production. In fact, it's one of the fastest growing economies, and steel is just one part of it. And we're very happy to note that this expansion is going to be done in a very responsible fashion. I think the measures that are being taken by the industry today, and Kalyani Group being one of the most important ones for producing specialty steel, which is used by all the specialty sectors, automobiles, aircrafts, agricultural sector, defense, etc. I think we are here to show that the Indian steel industry is a mature industry, responsible industry, and though the sector is called a hard-to-abate sector, all the measures that are required to be taken, the industry is willing and up to take up the challenge. Just my short thoughts. Thank you so much.
There it is. Put your hands together for India's first green steel, Kalyani FeRresta. Dignitaries for doing the honors. Honorable Kalyani FeRresta.
From automotive to defense, aerospace, oil and gas, nuclear, steel plays an important role in our lives. But while steel is a solution, it's also a source of pollution that is affecting our planet every day. Every year, around 2 billion tons of steel produced in the world is responsible for generation of nearly 7% of total global CO2 emissions, making it the 5th most polluting industry on our planet. Hence, decarbonizing the steel manufacturing process is the need of the hour. At Kalyani Group, we are committed towards achieving carbon neutrality with our Planet Positive initiative. And today, we take perhaps the most significant step in the journey towards carbon neutrality. Sarloha Advanced Materials Private Limited, a Kalyani Group company, presents Kalyani FeRresta. Kalyani FeRresta is India's first ever green steel with net zero carbon emission intensity. It is truly a step towards preserving our glaciers, reducing global warming, and letting our future generations breathe better. To reduce our carbon footprints, Sarloha uses many low to zero CO2 emission intensive processes, such as increasing recycled scrap material while reducing pig iron and DRI, replacing furnace oil with an environmentally friendly biodiesel, electrifying various furnaces used for steel production, and continuously enhancing our energy efficiency. Manufacturing process of Kalyani FeRresta is powered by 100% of renewable energy sources, be it automotive, nuclear, defense, aerospace, engineering, tool and die, or oil and gas. Kalyani FeRresta can help to keep our planet green and clean. When you choose Kalyani FeRresta, you reduce your carbon footprints and help in the conservation of natural resources. And most importantly, choosing Kalyani FeRresta is your way of gifting a greener and cleaner planet to the future generations. The earth is beautiful. With Kalyani FeRresta, let's ensure it stays that way. Kalyani FeRresta, steel for a greener planet.
Request you, sir, please.
Seated on the dais with me from the Kalyani Group, Amit Kalyani ji, Goel Saab, from my ministry, Nagin Nath Sinha ji, Ruchika ji, Sukriti ji, and all of the ladies and gentlemen present here this afternoon on this important day, benefactors, believers, part of the ecosystem of the steel industry. At the outset, let me first congratulate Kalyani ji and Goel Saab and the Kalyani Group for striking forward and being able to establish position and show the path forward to the steel industry and to other infrastructure industries of what it means to create a paradigm shift in production processes, keeping in mind the environmental issues as well as climate change, which are predominant in the world today. My heartiest congratulations to the group, a group that has always been at the forefront of great production, service to the nation, and also a group that has really taken India's name forward on the global stage across many, many frontiers. Steel, ladies and gentlemen, is a founding precept of any emerged economy, developed economy across the world. And so is the case with India. As our aspirations grow, as development tries to seek new frontiers, new paradigms are established, tectonic shifts occur across the spectrum. Steel becomes the foundational force based on which an economy prospers and grows. Today, India has emerged on the global stage as the 5th largest economy, powering itself in the last 8 years under the leadership of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, from an 11th position in 13-14 to a 5th pole position in the year 21-22. We have displaced many developed economies across the world, and that journey will continue. It is our forecast and the forecast of many international research bodies that by the year 2030, India will move from 11th position in 13-14 to the 5th position in 2022 to the 3rd position by 2030, displacing even Germany and Japan to become the 3rd largest economy in the world. Now, to attain that position, production of steel that becomes the raw material for every successive industry down the value chain, many of which we saw in this video. From the other portfolio that I hold, civil aviation, to engineering, to fundamental development, whether it is schools or hospitals. Steel is the primary ingredient that takes an economy forward. And we progressed a lot in the last 8 years. From a production capability of close to 100 million tons per annum, we are today at 150 million tons per annum. And our target is by 2030 to double our current capacity of 154 million tons per annum to 300 million tons per annum. From an actual production basis, from a base year of 13-14 at 80 million tons, we are today at 120 million tons. And we aspire to go to 240 million tons by the year 2030. So we are a sector that's on the move. And because our sector is on the move, India is on the move. But keeping that in mind, looking at the increase in per capita consumption from 54 to 77 today, we hope to reach close to about 150 to 200 by the year 2030. But today it's also important, as we have become and donned the mantle of the second largest producer of steel in the world, that we also become a responsible producer of steel in the world. And therefore the government has put in place a national green steel policy, because that is where the world is headed in any case. There will come a time in the near distant future when today's raw materials that are used for steel production, be it iron ore, be it coking coal, will no longer be a viable option. Not necessarily from a cost structural parameter, but from a ESG parameter, environmental, social, governance parameter. And therefore we have to prepare ourselves for that eventuality today. And here is another example where government and private sector have to work together to make that thought into a reality, to make that vision into a reality. And the National Green Steel Imperative of the Government of India seeks to do exactly that. We are looking at both demand side drivers as well as supply side drivers. On the supply side, we are looking at 5 basic components. The first is energy efficiency, which Amit has spoken volumes about, how the country has to move much more towards renewables. Today we have roughly about 177 gigs of renewable power in our portfolio in India. But it's the Prime Minister's resolve and his commitment in COP26 that in the years to come we are going to increase that to 500 gigs purely of renewable power. And through renewables, you can cut down the CO2 emissions of steel by close to about 10 to 15%. Along with that, there are many other elements that we have tried to use in this process, whether it be the Perform Achieve trade scheme of the Government of India, whether it be the BAT scheme, the Better Alternative Technology schemes, and all of them together have contributed to almost a 15% cut in CO2 emissions as we speak. The second pillar that we look at is, along with energy efficiency, which covers BAT and PAT, and renewable efficiency, the third pillar is resource efficiency. And the ability to look at materials that will cut down CO2 emissions. And there are three very ready-made options in front of us. The first is the area of pellets. The greater the pelletization in India, the greater the beneficiation in India. Every 1% increase in Fe content of iron ore results in a 1% lower consumption of coke in the process. And the less coke that you consume, the lesser CO2 emissions occur. The use of plastic, not necessarily as a raw material, but in the process of the value chain. And the third most important is the use of scrap. The greater the use of scrap, the more you can lower emissions. And today India uses 26 million tons of scrap on an annual basis. Domestically supplied, 4 million tons, internationally supplied, 30 million tons out of a production of 120 million tons, which means roughly 22.5% of our steel today is produced from scrap alone as an input for the production of steel. The costs of hydrogen are roughly about $6 a kilo. And it's only when it comes down to about $1.50 a kilo that it makes economic sense in the use of steel. Those issues of storage, production, all I believe, using the concept of the technology curve, will be overcome in the next 3 to 5 years. And the final pillar on the supply side is carbon capture, utilization and storage. Now, CCUS is an area where we are already concentrating on in India. The capture of carbon, the utilization of CO2, and the sequestering of it, and the storage of it. All of that are parts of the value chain that still need to be explored. On the demand side, there are two very clear drivers that we look at. The first is the capability to raise awareness across industries within India. And whether that means we look at eco-labeling of products, whether we raise awareness of consumers across the board, all of these are measures that we can look at for increasing the capability and the demand for green steel. The final part on the demand side is to look at maybe mandating a certain part of production of steel through green steel. I think that is something also that all of us as stakeholders should explore. Because if you look at roughly a 30% premium that we can give for green steel, and let's assume a number, but let's assume if you look at a 20% requirement of green steel production, you're looking at roughly close to about 1.26% increase in project costs. And considering that 20% of India's steel production today is used for government projects, I think that is an avenue that one can explore in the future as well. So that to us is the composition of the kaleidoscope that we need to look at. Today is a sunrise day for the steel industry. We have amongst us a group that has been socially very conscious, a group that has always tried to innovate, and I think Sir Loa's effort, where you look at using scrap to produce steel, where you look at using renewable energy as a power source, where you look at alternatives in terms of furnace oil for the process, and I think the end result, as Ruchika ji said, a 0.14 CO2 to total crude steel produced ratio, I think we must have a round of applause for what Sir Loa has been able to perform. In many ways, shown the light for many industry majors to emulate. And on this day, whilst I congratulate the Kalyani Group for what they have started on a pilot project basis in their Sarloha plant, I think is a day that we must as a country, we must as an industry, and we must as stakeholders commit ourselves to a greater production of green steel, a green steel that is environmentally conscious, because at the end of the day, both you and I, as stakeholders in this industry, both you and I, as stakeholders in this country, both you and I, as stakeholders of Mother Earth, hold her resources, her environment, in a fiduciary capacity for the generations to come. And therefore, as socially responsible individuals, we must pledge ourselves to this goal as we move along towards becoming one of the larger and most developed economies in the world under the leadership of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. Thank you very much for having me.
Today is a sunrise day for the steel industry, really sum up the essence of this event. It's now my privilege to invite to the dais for the vote of thanks.
Good evening once again. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel honored and privileged to get this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this very special event. This event is not only special for Kalyani Group, but also for the entire nation and the steel industry, as we are taking a significant step towards a net zero future with India's first green steel, Kalyani FeRresta. We would like to thank our Chief Guest, Honorable Minister of Steel and Civil Aviation, Mr. Scindia ji, for sparing his valuable time with us. Your presence made this event exemplary. Sir, your words are an inspiration for all of us. Thank you for guiding us on the steel industry growth potential in India and how India can lead the sustainable and green steel manufacturing at the global platform. I am sure through your speech, we take a great amount of learnings today with us. Thank you very much, sir. We would like to thank our esteemed guest.
This very special occasion to Honorable Minister, sir.
Please come. Please come.
We'd like to request, ma'am and sir. Big thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen.
For this, from research to everything, equipment that you brought in, how much would you have totally invested in this?
You see, our major part of investment is in green energy. Like we have set up in total 83 megawatt of RE, including wind, and total investment in that part, either directly or indirectly, is close to 400 crore. Ministry, anybody and everybody is welcome. They can come to our factory, they can see our model, and we can support them to implement this, because we are not going to lose that. We have nothing to lose. Only thing is, they will also honor us much more if we are educating people, and as a country, we will be having a much better environment. So every steel producer is more than welcome to come, see our plant, which can be a demo plant, discuss with us, and we'll be very happy to educate them. कुछ भी आता है वहाँ पर पूरा स्ट्रक्चर स्टील का लगाने से उससे काफ़ी सेफ रहता है, और ये पूरा सिस्टम जापान, कोरिया, ताइवान, इन सभी देशों में ज़्यादातर जो बिल्डिंग बनती है, कोई भी ब्रिज बनता है, सब प्योरली स्टील के होते हैं, वो पूरा स्टील का होता है। इंडिया में भी जो सिस्मिक जोन में जो भी एरिया है, वहाँ पर स्टील का हमको बनाना चाहिए, और लोग ये सोचते हैं कि थोड़ा कॉस्ट कम आएगा, वो कॉस्ट बचाने के लिए दूसरे मटेरियल यूज़ करते हैं, बट उसके लिए सही मटेरियल स्टील ही है, तो उसके अंदर स्टील ही यूज़ करना चाहिए, और जितना हम स्टील नए प्रोसेस से बना सकते हैं, उतना इंडिया के अंदर बहुत ज़्यादा पोटेंशियल है सोलर पावर जनरेट करने का, विंड पावर जनरेट करने का। उस एनर्जी को आप यूज़ करिए और उससे नंबर 1 आपके देश में पॉल्यूशन नहीं होगा, नंबर 2 आप जो थर्मल कोल इंपोर्ट करते हैं वो इंपोर्ट करने का जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगा।
अच्छा,